If you're thinking about going to college, I want you to be more strategic about how you're going to use the degree and determining whether you even need it. And with that in mind, I want to give you my point of view on how to be strategic with utilizing and deciding if a college degree is a part of the plan that you need. If you're thinking about going to college, you've probably bought into the philosophy that going to college is going to put you in a higher socioeconomic bracket. You're going to make more money. You're going to get more access to prestige and things of that nature. And in some instances, that's correct. But you'd be surprised the number of people who go into the educational arena not fully understanding what they need to do to get from point A to point B. So here's some questions that you need to be asking yourself in terms of developing your strategy. First, why are you going to college? You'd be surprised the number of people who don't really have a full-throated answer to that question. They've bought into the commercials. They may have come up from a legacy of family members who've gone to college. They may have even had loved ones who encouraged them to go to college because they've always been taught to believe that going to college is going to open up all these doors for you for so many great things for the future. However, the hardcore reality is you need to be able to answer that question yourself. If you can't answer the question as to why you want to go to college, then what you're doing is you're basically using talking points and messaging and propaganda. Ask yourself that question and be prepared to answer. Why are you going to college? Number two, why did you pick that major and why did you pick that career? I can tell you, keeping it 100 as the young folks would say, when I was talking about going to school, let me tell you what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. But if anyone would have asked me why, because it sounded cool. I was interested in sciences. I thought being a doctor, and I kept thinking surgeon is better. That's the plan. But the reality is that I didn't really have any specifically deep-seated passion. If you asked me today, would you have liked to go into medical school? Sure, it would have been cool. But it wasn't something that was like, I just had to make it happen. That was just my passion and so forth. Answer that question for yourself. If you're picking a degree, why did you pick that degree? And not because it sounds interesting, and that's fine, but if it does, just be honest with yourself. Not because your parents thought it might be a great degree, or maybe you had some exposure to it in high school. Be honest with yourself, and you need to be very, very full-throated honest with yourself when asking the question, why did you pick that degree? And also with regards to that career. It's great, like I said before, I wanted to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. It sounds great on paper, but reality is that I didn't have any clue as to what it involved, other than it sounded cool. So you need to be prepared to answer that question for yourself, because you may find that that's not really what you're into, but it just sounds good on paper. Number three, what are you going to do after you get the job that you want? Now, that's going to sound corny, but a lot of times, most of us, we put our focus on getting the job or the career we want as the destination. You got so many years to do things after that. So if that's the case, why are you just focusing on that? And in a sense, if you get that, what are you going to do after that? So if your desire is to be a teacher, if your desire is to be a dentist, if you're going to be an architect, that's great. Once you get there, what are you going to do next? Most people probably can't tell you what they're going to do next, mainly because they haven't thought that far. Their main focus is just getting there. And they think, well, when I get there, I'll work it out when I get there. No, don't work it out when you get there, because what may happen, and what happens in a lot of instances, is people get there, do the job, and realize that's not what they want to do. Now, I'm not saying that's a waste of your time, a waste of your energy. What I'm saying is be honest with yourself. If that's what you want, think about what's happening beyond that so that you can be honest with yourself to say, okay, this is what I want to do in the long term. And let's just be clear. You may not know what the long term is, but the last thing you want to do is to put yourself in a position where you're trying to get a particular job or have a particular career and get there and realize, this ain't for me. Number four, what are you trying to do? That's going to sound corny, but it goes to the long picture. If you know there is something that you want to do, maybe it's you want to open up a chain of dry cleaning. Maybe you want to provide medical services to people abroad. Maybe you want to open up charter schools in underserved areas. You might want to open up a grocery store in a food desert, a place where there's like no nearby grocery store. And that's great. How is this degree going to help you? So you got to be honest with yourself when you're looking and saying to yourself, okay, this is what I want to do, and this is how the degree is going to help. Don't go thinking, I'm going to get the degree and it's going to help me figure out what I want to do next. Know what you want to do and figure out, okay, how does the degree play a role in what you want to do in the bigger picture? Number 5, is it necessary to have the degree to achieve what you want? No one ever asks that magical question. If you know you want to open up a clinic, do you want to open up a clinic so that you run it as an administrator? Or do you want to run it as a doctor? Do you want to run it as a therapist? There's so many aspects. You have to now ask yourself, do I need a degree to do this? If you know that you want to have a free health clinic, or maybe it's a free place where for kids to eat and so forth like that, do you need to get a business degree in order to do that? Or can you learn how to be a business person through educating yourself on your own and creating it on your own and doing it sooner than later? So you have to be honest with yourself and ask, is it necessary to have the degree? Number 6, if you've decided that you want to get the degree, is there a cost-effective way to get it? I've often told a lot of students who are looking at going to college, follow the money. Look at the schools that are offering you scholarships. Now, if nobody's offering it, that's one thing. But you'd be surprised the number of times students get offered scholarships to schools they had never heard of. And because that school was not a part of their dream list, they don't go there. And then they find themselves in this unique position where you've got the dream school that's offering you no money. And then you've got the school you've never heard of that's accredited, but they're offering you all kind of money. So then the question you have to ask yourself in the grander scheme of things is that if the goal is to get the degree, does it matter if it's the dream school or just a school? So you have to be honest. If you can go to a school that's going to put you in a position where they're going to pay for your education and you come out with no debt, think about that as you weigh it against the school as your dream school that you're basically having to take out loans just to be able to go. I know I've provided you a bunch of different questions that you have to ask yourself, but the reason why I'm telling you to answer these questions for yourself is because once you do, you'll start to form a strategy on your own. The strategy will ensure these particular points of determining what is it you want to do. How long do you want to take to get there? Is a degree necessary to get there? And if you get the degree, what's the most cost-effective way to get there? All of these things will shape themselves out accordingly. The biggest piece of advice I often tell people is that when you're trying to strategize how to get from point A to point B and trying to decide whether or not you need a degree to do so, talk to someone. Don't just think you have to do it on your own. Way too many people find themselves in this trap of believing that they have to figure this out on their own, and then they find themselves stuck because they're not sure. Even if it's not amongst your friends, use resources that are available to you. Go to the Chamber of Commerce. Talk to different organizations that have professionals in the area that you're looking to get into. Sit down and talk and find out what is the smartest way to do what you're trying to do. Because at the end of the day, it really is about using the one thing you can never get back, time. So you want to use your time effectively. And if getting a degree is part of it, make sure you do that effectively as well.